Salem is one of those tracks in the Master Cup Series schedule that tends to generate controversy. For starters, the top half of the track, from the center to the outside line of the track, there's all sorts of marbles there because the track surface is breaking up, and that means anyone that goes there is going to go straight into the wall. There's very little to no grip there at all, and with a track like this with not too much room to maneuver, it tends to create a lot of accidents, and that was the case in the qualifying race. Kurt Walker was out creating some problems again. He made a very ambitious block on his own teammate Dan Klesel, and we haven't heard what either of those two drivers have had to say about it, but neither one of them qualified, and I don't think Arthur Thomas is too happy about that. JD McDermott certainly isn't. Also in the qualifying race, Cyrus Laterza in the 74 car did a barrel roll, something we hadn't seen here, well, ever really, since an Arla Thunder Truck race here a couple of weeks ago. But that's still not something you see at this track very often. Also, I think we may have seen the very last of Paul Lyons and Manny Brown in the Master Cup Series, because both of them, we believe at least Lyons is going to get fired from his team, but Manny Brown's career with the Aerotech team is over after this race, as Flavio Vespucci officially sacked Brown after he failed to qualify, and after he's gotten a little bit of a contretemps with Bruno Battaglia, which I don't think really is the smartest thing to do, since Bruno was formerly in the NFL and could, well, quite frankly, stuff Brown into a garbage can if he had a mind to do so. Anyway, Scott, off to you.
Thank you, Lance. The Clutch Pole Award would go to Kurt Plissken in car number 16. Just another example of how Plissken has turned his Master Cup career around this season. Plissken and outside pole sitter Leonid Roderick are pretty much even coming across the start-finish line, but going through turns 1 and 2, Plissken, as well as the entire inside line, have the edge. Looking behind Roderick going into turn 3, Enzo Medina and John Parker Jr., instead of taking advantage of their great qualifying spots up front, decide instead to play in the marbles and slide up into the wall. Scott Hamilton, an Arla driver, is subbing for Palmer Styles in car number 34 this week. Styles injured his wrist last week at the New York Auto Ring. Hamilton will be running midfield at the moment and is in position to lose a few more spots after Rachel Rainsford decides to make friends with the wall just ahead of him. Back up front, Kurt Plissken has about a 7-car length lead over Leonid Roderick. Roderick is starting to separate from the rest of the field, however, he doesn't appear to be gaining much ground on the 16. It's very nice to see the 16 running like this, considering how his season went last year. Tyrone Stanley in the 23 won this race last year, and as of now, it looks like he's in fine position to do it again, challenging Enzo Medina for the 5th spot. This kind of run is great for Camelot Racing. That team's season so far has been a complete disaster, despite Kurt Walker winning at Joliet. The first caution flew on lap 8. We are centered on Leon Keniston at the moment, but watch for Tony Durbin in the 33. Durbin is sliding along the wall after hitting the marbles. Keniston runs into the 33 and spins himself out, apparently ignoring Durbin's presence. He is hit once more by Rachel Rainsford in the 99 and is just missed by Alan Hodges in the 13, who we are riding on board with at the moment. The wreck starts, everyone shoots to the outside except for Hodges, who chooses the inside lane, which would not have been a very good idea, but luckily he misses the 3. Mike Whitmore led the field to the restart. Danny Savin is 1 lap down. He was the last car to take the caution flag and made a rather slow pit stop. The 91 challenges Whitmore to try to get that lap back. However, the 73 is able to hold him off, and coming to the line, you see that the caution flag is out once again. This wreck actually occurred on the restart. Stephanie McGlynn, coming to take the green flag, takes turn 4 really wide and bounces off the wall into Carlos Donzello, who turns the 52 around. This incident was quite the reminder of 2008, when McGlynn crashed out of several events. Mike Whitmore would continue to lead on the restart. John Parker Jr., last week's winner in the 53, right behind him, and Danny Savin is still a lap down. However, this time around, the 91 is going to get a much better restart than the 73 does. Look at Dale Roswell going for second in that 19. Coming around 3 and 4, it looks like Salem is going to get his lap back, but ooh, he bounces off the wall and loses a ton of speed. That's going to allow the 73 to blast by the 91. Looking behind Salem, you see Roswell and Parker still battling for the second spot. Whitmore is going to relinquish the lead to come down pit road, holding up Dale Roswell a bit. Chris Allen follows the 73 down pit road, caution 3 on lap 19. This would occur as Whitmore and Allen came down pit road. Marcus Leonard is going to shoot to the inside to miss Colin Evans, running into Ryan Naraki. Naraki is going to set off a big pile-up, collecting Sam Morrell, making, I believe, only his second start of the season. Lauren Roth, the Daytona winner in the 39, Ross Peterson, Lewis Kingston, Scott Bates, David Krikorian. Alan Hodges, who missed the first wreck, but couldn't avoid this one. Looking at an aerial view of the wreck, you see everyone piling in on the inside. It's an onboard shot from DK in the 9. He and Scott Bates are going to bounce off the wall coming off of turn 4. And there goes Ian Cooper in the 2. He just barely gets by the wreck. But Krikorian, Bates, and several other cars are not so lucky. There would be a second incident just after the field takes the yellow flag. Julian Nosova slows down for the field, but here comes Kurt Plissken, surprising Nosova with a shot in the back, spinning the one car out. I wouldn't imagine Nosova could have been very pleased with that. There would be quite the traffic jam in turn 1. This is how Alan Hodges gets caught up in the wreck. It looks like he's going to miss it, but the 66 just comes sliding down in front of him. Hodges and Morrell are going to get stuck on the apron. Brian Sendak would lead the field to the restart with Scott Hamilton and Gary Edwards right behind him. Dale Roswell and John Parker Jr. were both one lap down because they had decided to get their cars repaired under the yellow after hitting the wall earlier in the race. Speaking of hitting the wall, that's what Brian Sendak decides to do coming out of turn 2, and then coming through 3 and 4, he decides he needs to get to know the wall in 3 and 4. This allows Hamilton to dive under the 40 and go for the lead. This is James Dalton making his first start of the season in that 00 car. Dalton owns the 01 and 02 cars driven by Woody Watts and Marcus Leonard respectively. Dalton is going part-time this year mainly because of both his bad performance in 2008, in which he didn't qualify for several races, and he is running the GRL again. Caution 4 on lap 36. Leonid Roderick, while battling Julian Nosova for position, is going to bounce off the turn 4 wall and get turned by the one car right in front of Carlos Donzello, who's then hit by Tyrone Stanley and almost goes upside down. Donzello in the 45 has just hit a milestone in the TM Master Cup Series, getting his car off the ground. While bouncing around, Donzello is going to get hit by Danny Sub, and Arto Kekkonen gets involved in there. Donzello tries to get his car back underway, but gets stuck on the apron, and pretty much creates this big mess involving the leaders, Gary Edwards and Brian Sendak most notably, who were running first and second at the time. Here's an aerial shot. You see everybody piling in. I guess Donzello took them all by surprise. I guess everyone's spotters just weren't paying attention and didn't tell their drivers that Donzello was parked on the apron. That's pretty much the only way I can justify this. Edwards and Sendak had to pit for repairs. This left Scott Hamilton in the lead on the restart. Enzo Medina was in front of Hamilton on the restart. He was the last car in the lead lap, and right now it looks like he's pretty safe from going a lap down. Caution 5 would fly in lap 43, not long after the restart. Watch Leonid Roderick in the 4. He hits the marbles and goes up into the wall. Alexis Rainsford is able to get by, but then decides to not pay attention and runs right into her teammate Julian Nosova, carrying the 1, the 27, and the 4 up into the wall. While the field was coming to the yellow flag, Scott Hamilton is going to hit the wall. Colin Evans is going to slam into the 34 coming off of turn 4 and creates a big traffic jam behind him. Kurt Plissken and Gary Edwards run into the 30. Drew Eisenman gets sideways. Here's an aerial shot. Justin Brooks goes for the lead as Hamilton slides along the wall. And then Evans just runs the turn really wide and bounces off the pit wall, creating a big traffic jam. You saw Chris Johans in the 22 get sideways. Everyone came into the pits under yellow. This puts Scott Hamilton in the lead on the restart. The inside line, which is made up of lapped cars, is much, much shorter than the line for the leaders. Teammates Chris Johans and Justin Brooks, running 3rd and 4th respectively, are going to find the wall at the same time, coming through turns 3 and 4. Justin Brooks is easily having one of the best runs of his year so far. Caution 6 on lap 52. Chris Johans in the 22 is going to show why he is sometimes called Crash Johans in the series when he gets into Danny Savin, taking the 91 and the 22 up into the wall. Chris Allen and Joseph Howard, both Johans' teammates, also get involved. Everyone decided to come down pit road again. This would put Leonid Roderick and Zach Duff up front. Duff, running in 2nd, had not been a contender all day, and Roderick has not been a contender since the start of the race. Roderick's Flash Racing teammate, Scott Hamilton, was the leader before the caution. He restarted in 3rd. Caution 7 on lap 64. Alexis Rainsford is going to get into another wreck as James Dalton bounces off the wall into the 27. Rainsford bounces into Chris Allen and spins that 27 car out. You also saw Scott Stoidler narrowly miss the 27 car, though he did get into the wall. Woody Watts would restart 4th in that 01 car, though he gets a terrible restart, letting the leaders get away from him. But still, this is one of the best runs of Watts' season so far. Caution 8, lap 72. Stuart Sandoval in the 77 is going to run turn 4 a bit wide and get into Leonard Roderick, who is sliding along the wall, and both cars finally spin out. Going into turn 1, Drew Eisenman runs into them, and this creates a bit of a traffic jam. Here's another angle. 2 cars are just pushing on each other and finally go around into turn 1. Then Drew Eisenman runs into them. I saw Woody Watts and Joseph Howard get involved there. Zach Duff would lead on the restart in the 28. It looks like he's going to go unchallenged for a while, but then he decides to hit the wall coming out of turn 4. He loses a lot of speed, and that allows Scott Hamilton to come up and challenge him for the lead. Caution 9, lap 82. Alexis Rainsford was still not finished getting her car smashed up. Chris Johans rides the wall through turn 4. Rainsford gets into him, spins out, and she's going to get hit by James Dalton. Scott Stoidler runs into the 00, and this is going to take Scott Stoidler out of the race. This time, the officials have had enough of Rainsford's antics and promptly called her to the hauler. Zach Duff led on the restart once again. Scott Hamilton behind him. Duff is going to run turn 4 a bit wide again, but this time Hamilton is not really able to take advantage of it. Duff would then find a huge burst of speed and start pulling away from the rest of the pack. Justin Brooks would take the 2nd spot from Scott Hamilton. This great run just might be enough to save Brooks' deal at McAllister Motorsports. However, there just weren't enough laps for him to catch the 28, and Zach Duff takes his first career TM Master Cup Series victory. In 3rd would be Scott Hamilton, his best Master Cup Series finish so far. Chris Johans finished in 4th, the last car on the lead lap. Joseph Howard 5th, Arto Kekkonen 6th, Mike Whitmore 7th, Stuart Sandoval 8th, Chris Allen 9th, and Gary Edwards in 10th. And here are the points. Tony Durbin continues to lead. Dale Roswell in 2nd, 34 points back. Rachel Rainsford in 3rd. Gary Edwards 4th. Alexis Rainsford in 5th. Rainsford is actually tied for 5th with Chris Johans. Both are 60 points behind Tony Durbin. Alan Hodges in 7th. Arto Kekkonen in 8th. Damian Snyder 9th. And Leonid Roderick in 10th. Now 11 through 20. Zach Duff with his win is just knocking on the door of that top 10. I can't say enough about how Kurt Plissken has turned his season around. He sits 14th. Drew Eisenman in 16th. I believe he was outside the top 27 a few weeks ago.